In 2075, Der Evelyn Reyes and her team sat at their observation stations in the Deep Space Observatory located in the desolate highlands of Chile. The room was filled with the quiet hum of equipment and the faint buzz of excitement. No one could have predicted what was about to unfold on the monitors. A strange pattern flickered. It was unlike any known cosmic event. The frequency was stable and mathematically precise, a perfect code, sending a signal straight to Earth. But the source was millions of light-years away in a galaxy no one had ever explored before. Evelyn leaned closer to her screen. Her fingers danced across the keyboard as she ran the signal through every known decryption algorithm. But none of them worked. The pattern didn't fit any conventional cosmic phenomena. It wasn't just a random burst of radiation or a dying star's transmission. It was something different, something intentional. As the team watched, the signal continued its rhythmic pulse, almost as if it were waiting for someone to respond. Evelyn's colleague Samuel Perez, a mathematician and cryptographer, was the first to notice a subtle detail. The signal wasn't just random noise. It contained a series of mathematical constants equations that were eerily familiar, the golden ratio pi Fibonacci sequences. It was a design, something constructed, but by whom and why? They worked through the night in an attempt to decipher the purpose of the message. Each line of code that passed through their systems seemed to align with ancient symbols used by early civilizations. The designs matched those found in old Egyptian hieroglyphs, ancient architecture, and even lost languages. This wasn't just some scientific discovery. It felt personal, a message directed at humanity itself. By morning, the team had uncovered something astonishing. Embedded within the signal were coordinates. They pointed to a region in the sky so far out of reach that it was almost unfathomable. It wasn't just a signal. It was a map leading to something larger than they could comprehend, something where someone was out there waiting to be discovered. The coordinates led to a cluster of stars in a galaxy known as Cygnus, a distant corner of the universe. But what could possibly be waiting there? Evelyn called for an emergency meeting with the other scientists involved in the project. The data was too important to be kept secret. She knew that if this was indeed a message from an advanced civilization, it could change the course of human history. But there was something else gnawing at her, a deep unease. Something about this whole situation felt off. They had no idea who or what was sending this signal, or what would happen if they followed the map to its end. As the day progressed, the team began to consider the possibility that this was no mere scientific breakthrough, but something far more profound, an invitation to learn something deeper about their existence, or perhaps even their origin. The signal itself seemed to whisper that humanity had been waiting for this moment, the moment when they would finally uncover the truth about their place in the cosmos. Evelyn sat back in her chair, staring at the coordinates on her screen. A part of her wanted to dismiss the idea as impossible, but another part of her knew better. This was no accident. They had been found, and now it was time to answer the call. The Order of Amun had existed for centuries, operating in the shadows of history. Its members were scholars, archaeologists, and mystics dedicated to guarding an ancient truth passed down through the ages. They had always known that humanity's origins were not of this world, that an entity from the stars had shaped life on Earth, and they had spent generations interpreting cryptic texts to piece together the cosmic puzzle. But the signal from 2075 was more than they had ever hoped for. It was confirmation that their beliefs were not mere superstition. It was a call to action. Malik, the Order's leader, had long awaited this moment. His face was weathered, and his eyes cold with wisdom gained from years of study. He stood in the dimly lit chamber of their hidden sanctuary, deep beneath the sands of Egypt. The chamber was lined with ancient scrolls and artifacts that no one outside the Order had ever seen. He knew that Reyes and her team were on the verge of something profound, and he had to reach them before it was too late. The message had reached the Order almost simultaneously. They had watched the discovery unfold from afar, aware that the moment of revelation was drawing near. Malik had spent decades preparing for this day through secret meetings and hidden texts. He knew the coordinates in the signal had meaning. He knew the patterns in the transmission were deliberate. They were part of a grand design meant to guide humanity to its true purpose. And now it was time for the Order to make their move. Malik's mind raced as he paced back And fourth, he had always known that the signal would come, but he had never imagined it would arrive in such a direct and undeniable form. The Order had long believed that the entity known as Amun-Ra was not a myth but a cosmic designer who had shaped life on Earth. With purpose, they had even believed that Amun-Ra had created other worlds and other species across the universe. As part of a larger plan for evolution, the Order had kept this knowledge secret, fearing that the truth would disrupt humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. But now the time had come to share the knowledge with the world. He gathered a select group of his most trusted followers and informed them of the signal's arrival. He spoke in hushed tones of the ancient texts that described Amun-Ra's work, the creator of life who had seeded the stars with intelligent beings. Each planet was a canvas, and humanity was one of his greatest masterpieces. The signal had been sent to awaken humanity to its true nature, to remind them of their divine origin, and guide them toward their destiny as cosmic stewards. Malik knew that if Darius and her team followed the coordinates, they would soon uncover the truth of Amun-Ra's work. But he also knew that they would face great dangers along the way. Humanity was not ready to face the reality of their origins, and the Order's knowledge would be seen as blasphemy by many. But Malik was unshaken. He had dedicated his life to this mission, and now it was time to reveal the hidden truths of the cosmos to those brave enough to listen. As the Order prepared to make contact with Darius, they understood that the discovery would forever alter the course of human history. But they also knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. The path to uncovering the secrets of Amun-Ra would be fraught with peril, but it was a path they had been waiting for, and now humanity's awakening had begun. Darius and her team sat huddled around the conference table, their faces lit by the glow of their monitors. As the data continued to pour in from the Deep Space Observatory, they had just finished analyzing the final pieces of the signal, the mathematical patterns, the cryptic symbols, and the coordinates. Everything was pointing toward one undeniable truth: Earth was not an accident. It was a creation, a carefully designed ecosystem placed in the universe with purpose. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became that the signal wasn't just some cosmic anomaly. It was a blueprint, a guide to life itself. Evelyn's mind raced as she scrolled through the encrypted files. The coordinates were clear, leading to a specific point in the sky, to a star system in the Cygnus galaxy. But what exactly lay there was still a mystery. The signal had provided so much information, yet left so much unsaid. There were no direct instructions, no explanations, just a trail of cosmic breadcrumbs, meant to lead them somewhere. But where exactly was that somewhere, and what would they find once they arrived? Her hand hovered over the keyboard for a moment, unsure of how to proceed. She knew the implications of their discovery could be world-changing, but they were still far from understanding the true purpose of the signal. Was it a message from a distant civilization, or something even greater? Was it possible that this signal had been sent by the very force that had designed life on Earth? Was there an intelligence out there that had been watching humanity's progress and was now ready to make itself known? Just as the team began discussing their next steps, a new piece of information came through the system. It was an encrypted message, this time not from deep space, but from an unknown source on Earth. The message was brief and direct. It contained only one sentence, but it was enough to send a chill down their spines. It read, "We have been waiting for you," and with it were the same coordinates they had found in the signal. Evelyn looked up from the screen, her heart racing. Who could have sent this message? Who knew about the signal? And why were they waiting for them? She quickly called a meeting with the team to discuss the implications of the message. It was clear now that they weren't the only ones aware of the discovery. There were others out there who had been tracking the same signals and who were possibly preparing for the same journey into the stars. The question that now hung in the air was, what did these other parties want? Were they allies or adversaries? And what would happen when they all arrived at the same destination? Would humanity be ready for what lay ahead? As the team discussed their options, a sense of urgency began to take hold. They couldn't afford to wait any longer. The message was clear. They had to follow the coordinates. They had to uncover the truth about their origins before anyone else could claim it first. As the decision was made to begin preparations for the journey, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something monumental, a discovery that would shake the very foundation of human existence. They were no longer just scientists trying to solve a cosmic puzzle. They were the first to answer a call from the stars, and they had no idea what they would find when they arrived. The decision was made to move forward with the journey to the coordinates. The team worked tirelessly day and night, preparing their spacecraft and systems for the unprecedented mission. But as they did so, Evelyn couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease within her. Something felt off about the situation. The signal was too precise, too deliberate. And now there was a message waiting for them on Earth. It felt as though they were being guided toward something, and that made her question whether they were the ones in control of this mission, or whether they were simply following a path already laid out for them. The mystery deepened as the team continued their preparations. Strange occurrences began to unfold inside their observatory. Equipment malfunctioned inexplicably, and at times the data seemed to shift as if it were being altered from somewhere else. But no one could explain how or why. Evelyn began to suspect that there were forces at play beyond their understanding. She hadn't shared her doubts with anyone, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching them as they moved closer to uncovering the truth. Then one evening, as the team was gathered around the main console to review their final checks, the doors to the control room suddenly swung open. Malik stepped inside. His presence was calm yet commanding, and there was a look of urgency in his eyes. Evelyn froze as she recognized the emblem on his robes, the symbol of the Order of Amun-Ra. She had heard of them in passing, but never truly understood their significance until now. "You've come to take control of the mission, haven't you?" Evelyn said, her voice trembling slightly as she tried to keep her composure. "No," Malik replied, his voice soft yet firm. "I've come to offer guidance." The room fell silent as the team looked at one another, unsure of what to make of this unexpected visitor. Malik continued, "The journey you're about to embark on is no ordinary mission. It is part of a much larger plan, one that has been set in motion for eons. You are not the first to receive the signal, but you are the first to have the opportunity to understand it. The Order has long known of Amun-Ra's work, and we've spent centuries preparing for this moment." Evelyn's mind raced. She had always suspected that there was something more to this story than met the eye, but hearing it spoken aloud by someone so intimately tied to the mystery sent a chill down her spine. She had spent years analyzing the signal's data, and now it was clear that her findings were only the beginning. "Who is Amun-Ra?" she asked cautiously, her voice betraying a mix of curiosity and disbelief. "Amun-Ra is the cosmic architect," Malik explained. "The designer of life itself. He seeded worlds across the universe, creating ecosystems and intelligent species with the purpose of guiding them toward enlightenment. He chose Earth as his canvas and humanity as his most intricate creation, but your journey will reveal more than you could ever imagine." The revelation hit Evelyn like a wave of overwhelming force. It was one thing to discover that Earth had been shaped by intelligent design, but it was something else entirely to learn that humanity's purpose was part of a grand cosmic plan created by an entity far beyond their comprehension. The truth was far greater than she had ever anticipated, and she wasn't sure if humanity was ready for it. "You're telling me that Amun-Ra created all life on Earth, and that we were designed for something more than we know?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Malik replied. "And now it's time for you to uncover the next step in that journey." As Malik's words echoed in the room, a tense silence fell over the team, their minds racing to process the enormity of the revelation. Evelyn felt a chill settle in her bones. For the first time since this mission began, she felt as though they were no longer in control. The weight of Malik's presence and his cryptic message made everything they had discovered so far seem like just the tip of the iceberg. She had believed that the signal was the key to unlocking humanity's true origins, but now it seemed as though they were only beginning to scratch the surface of something far more complex. "So you've known all along," Evelyn said, her voice sharp with disbelief. "The Order knew about Amun-Ra, and you've been hiding this from the world for centuries." "Not hiding," Malik replied calmly. "Protecting the knowledge until humanity was ready to receive it, and you are ready now, but the path ahead will not be easy." The tension in the room grew as Malik's words sank and the team exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of how to proceed. They had already made the decision to follow the coordinates and uncover the truth, but now they realized they were no longer just exploring the unknown. They were entering a realm of cosmic significance, where the fate of humanity itself could be shaped. As if on cue, the massive ships appeared overhead, enormous and silent. They hovered in the atmosphere, casting shadows over the land below. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Their sleek metal exteriors glimmered against the sky as they descended with grace and precision. These were not just alien ships, they were something far more advanced than anything the team had ever imagined. Evelyn felt her heart race as the ships settled into place. Their presence was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. As they made contact with the Earth, she couldn't help but wonder who or what had sent them, and what their intentions were. Were they allies or adversaries? The world watched in stunned silence as the ships remained poised in the sky. Then the voice came, a deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate through the air and into their very bones. It was not spoken in any language they knew, but the message was unmistakable. The architects had arrived. The architects were the beings who had assisted Amun in his cosmic endeavors. They had shaped countless worlds and civilizations, guiding them toward enlightenment. Now they had come to Earth to witness humanity's progress and to see if they were ready to ascend to the next stage of their evolution. Evelyn's thoughts raced as she realized the magnitude of the situation. They had discovered their origins and the truth about their creation, but now they were being watched by a force far beyond their understanding. The architects had arrived to determine if humanity was truly ready to take the next step, or if they would fail. "The trials will begin soon," Malik said, his voice steady, but filled with an unspoken urgency. "The architects will test humanity to see if you are worthy of the knowledge and power that lies ahead. The journey will be difficult, but it is the only path forward." The weight of his words settled heavily on Evelyn's shoulders. She had no choice but to accept what was unfolding before her. The journey was far from over, and the trials would reveal not only humanity's future but its place in the cosmos. As the trials began, humanity faced a new and overwhelming reality. The architects had not come to Earth as conquerors, but as judges. They came to test the worthiness of those they had helped create, to determine if humanity was ready to ascend to a higher plane of existence. The trials were unlike anything the world had ever seen. They were not just physical or intellectual tests. They were trials of consciousness, perception, and unity, pushing every limit of human understanding. The first trial was a test of perception. The architects flooded the Earth with strange phenomena, bizarre distortions in the fabric of reality itself. These disturbances bent time and space, causing entire regions of the planet to experience moments of extreme disorientation. In some places, time seemed to slow to a crawl. In others, it sped up at an incomprehensible rate. People would age decades in an instant or lose entire hours without realizing it. At all, the trial was meant to force humanity to face the limits of their perception and to understand that reality itself could be manipulated in ways they could not yet fathom. Evelyn and her team were among the first to experience these phenomena. They stood in their observatory one moment, and the next, they were in an entirely different place. The room was the same, but the world outside was different. The sky was a strange shade of violet, and the stars seemed to shift in unpredictable patterns. It was as if they had stepped into an alternate reality. The team worked together to understand the distortions using the data they had gathered from the signal and the maps left by Amun. They realized that the phenomena were not random. They were part of a larger test meant to expand humanity's understanding of space and time. But as they began to adapt to the changes, they discovered something unsettling. The trials were not just about understanding reality. They were about overcoming fear and doubt. The distortions caused widespread panic and chaos across the world. People struggled to comprehend what was happening. Many tried to cling to the old ways of thinking, refusing to accept the possibility that reality could be altered so fundamentally. Governments scrambled to impose control and quell the growing unrest, but the architects had designed the trials in such a way that no one could hide from the truth. Evelyn knew that the first trial had been about confronting humanity's deepest insecurities about their place in the universe. The architects were showing them that the world they knew was a fragile construct, and in order to evolve they had to let go of their old beliefs and embrace a new understanding of reality. But that was only the beginning. The second trial came soon after. It was a test of unity. The architects had chosen to confront humanity with its greatest challenge: division. They had implanted a false threat, a series of intergalactic signals that suggested an imminent alien invasion, one that would unite the nations of Earth against a common enemy. The architects wanted to see if humanity could overcome its age-old divisions and work together for the greater good. But they knew the world was not prepared for such a shift. The trial was meant to push humanity to the brink, to force them to face their collective weakness. Across the globe, nations scrambled to respond to the perceived threat. Alliances were forged and broken in an instant as old rivalries and fears resurfaced. Yet, as the trial played out, it became clear that the architects had no intention of allowing the false threat to persist. It was only a test. The true enemy was not some external force, but the internal divisions that had plagued humanity for millennia. Evelyn watched as her team worked tirelessly to coordinate their efforts with others across the world. She saw the potential for change in the way people were coming together despite their differences, but it was still a fragile hope. The trial was not over yet, and the architects were watching, waiting to see if humanity could rise to the challenge of unity. But with each test, it became clearer that humanity's evolution was no simple task. The architects were pushing them to their limits, testing whether they could overcome their darkest impulses and embrace a future where they could become more than they ever imagined. The third trial was the most unexpected of all. It began without warning and without explanation. The Earth itself began to change. Vast tectonic shifts rippled across the planet. The ground cracked open in places where no fault lines had ever existed. Oceans began to rise and fall in unpredictable patterns. Entire cities disappeared into the sea as massive storms and earthquakes shook the surface. The architects were not just testing humanity's understanding of the cosmos, but their resilience to the unimaginable forces of nature itself. Evelyn and her team had been monitoring the global seismic activity. When the first tremors hit, they had no warning, no time to prepare. As the ground beneath them seemed to come alive, it was as if the Earth had decided to reconfigure itself in response to some unknown force. The changes were chaotic and destructive. Entire ecosystems were altered overnight, and the landscape of the world was irreversibly shifted. It was as though the planet itself was undergoing a transformation beyond human comprehension. The trial was not just about survival, it was about adaptation. Humanity had to learn to cope with the new reality the architects had thrown them into. They had to learn to build again, to innovate, and to rebuild from the ashes of their former world. But the task was daunting. The devastation was too great to ignore. Entire countries were left in ruins, with no clear way forward. Governments crumbled and society fractured into smaller communities struggling to survive. Yet amidst the chaos, there was a sense of unity beginning to form. The lessons from the second trial had not been forgotten. People came together to help one another rebuild and adapt to the new environment. They understood that they could not survive alone, that the only way forward was through cooperation and innovation. But even as humanity began to adapt, the question remained: were they truly ready to take the next step, or was this just another test in the architect's plan? Evelyn found herself reflecting on the trials and what they meant for humanity's future. She had once believed that the signal and the message were the beginning of a new chapter for Earth, but now she saw that it was much more than that. It was a trial by fire, a test to see if humanity could evolve beyond its limitations, if they could face the challenges thrown at them, and rise to a higher state of existence. The architects were not just testing their knowledge or their unity, they were testing their very nature. With every passing day, the team learned more about the architects and their intentions. The architects were not gods, they were beings of incredible intelligence and power, but they did not seek to control humanity. They sought to guide them, to help them break free from the constraints that had held them back for so long. The trials were a means of pushing humanity to evolve into something greater than itself, to transcend its old ways of thinking and living, and to become a part of the larger cosmic community. As the world continued to recover from the environmental upheavals, Evelyn knew that the final trial was approaching, the one that would determine humanity's fate. The architects had not given them any clues as to what it would entail, but she knew that whatever happened next would be the defining moment in humanity's history. The end of the trials would mark the beginning of something entirely new, and humanity had to be ready to embrace it, even if they didn't yet understand what it meant. The trials had shown them their weaknesses, their fears, and their potential, but they had also shown humanity's capacity for resilience and growth. They were no longer the same species they had been when the signal first arrived. They had evolved, and whether they were ready for the final trial or not, they would have to face it head-on. The final trial arrived without warning, and with it came an overwhelming sense of inevitability. Humanity had faced unimaginable challenges throughout the previous trials, but this one felt different. It was as if the architects had been preparing them for something far more profound than anything they had experienced so far. Evelyn stood with her team looking out at the sky as the air around them began to hum with an energy they could not yet understand. The atmosphere seemed to crackle with potential as the world held its breath. The trial was not a test of strength or intellect, or even unity. It was a test of belief, of humanity's ability to transcend its own limitations and accept a new vision of existence. The architects had pushed humanity to confront their greatest fears and weaknesses, but now they were asking humanity to make a choice that would determine the future of the human race. Would they accept their place in the universe as part of a grand cosmic design, or would they reject it and remain bound to their old ways of thinking? The earth trembled once more as a massive structure appeared in the sky, a ship unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Its sleek metal surface shimmered in the light of the sun, and its size was incomprehensible. It dwarfed anything man had ever built. Its presence alone was enough to make the ground beneath them feel like it might crack open at any moment. The architects had arrived in full force, and they were waiting to see if humanity would be ready to join them. The ship descended slowly, casting a shadow over the land. As it came closer, it hovered above the earth for what felt like an eternity before finally settling into place. Its presence was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, and as it touched down, the world seemed to hold its breath. Humanity's future was now in their hands. Evelyn and her team stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. They had worked tirelessly to prepare for this moment, but nothing had prepared them for the sheer magnitude of what they were about to face. Malik stepped forward, as if sensing the moment had come to act. His voice was steady but filled with an undeniable sense of urgency. "This is it," he said, looking at Evelyn. "The final choice is yours. Will you accept the path of evolution, or will you turn away from it?" Evelyn took a deep breath as she looked around at her team. The weight of the decision was almost too much to bear. They had been tested time and again, and now they were being asked to take the final step, to embrace the unknown and all it would mean for humanity's future. The architects had shown them that they were not alone in the universe, that they had been part of a larger plan all along, but now the question was whether humanity would accept their place in the greater cosmos or remain locked in their limited understanding of existence. As the silence stretched on, Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest. She knew that whatever choice they made, it would alter the course of human history forever. But there was no going back. The decision had to be made. The final trial was not about passing or failing. It was about taking the leap into the unknown and trusting in the future that the architects had designed for them. With a steady voice, she finally spoke. "We're ready," she said. "We're ready to take the next step." And with that, the architect's ship opened its massive doors, and humanity's new journey into the stars began.